The Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame recognizes Ohio's distinguished men and women who have worn the uniform of our nation's armed forces and then continue to contribute to their communities, state, and nation through exceptional acts of volunteerism, advocacy, professional distinction, public service, and philanthropy. The Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. Nominate a veteran today.
Michael Carrell, United States Air Force, Cold War, Global War on Terror. I was born into a military family. My dad served in the Air Force, so I was a military brat till I was about 8. Started in college thinking about I wanted to go into the Air Force as well. Applied for officer training school, and there was a Graham-Rudman bill at the time that was limiting accession, so I had to wait a little while, but a couple of years later I was accepted and went through officer training school into the Air Force. I was assigned as a specialty area into NORAD, which is one of the greatest things I ever did, and probably spent about half of my career at NORAD, and probably a good 4 or 5 years of my life, several thousand hours sitting in front of one of these radar scopes there, both in the U.S. and overseas as well. I did serve in NORAD headquarters, where you go inside the mountain about a mile and big giant blast doors you're behind. It's very much like war games. I'm sure they got the tour of the place when they built their sets, but having the blast doors and having the multiple screens and being able to pick up the radar feeds from all over the countries is very similar to that, and it's got that same feeling of being underground and being in a bunker there. Probably the coolest thing I ever got to do was, all the kids out there know NORAD Track Santa, and that's a great thing that NORAD does. It's all on the internet now, and you can watch videos. But back when I was in, and I got to do it at every place I was stationed at in NORAD, we would do this on Christmas Eve, and you got to man the phones, and you would take phone calls from the children and their families all over the world in some cases, and just telling them where is Santa now, how do you track him, how fast does he go, and how much time do I have before I need to get to bed. But just a fun perk of the job that you got to do every year. I was in for about 23 years, finished up my careers in base command and ROTC command. That's how I ended up here in Ohio. And what a wonderful job and rewarding job is, seeing that next generation and thinking back to why you joined in the military, and that's where they're at. And trying to give them the equipment or tools in their belt, whatever you want to call it, so when they go out and start their careers, they'll be effective. And it was nice to know that next generation is just as dedicated and maybe more so talented than we were. After that, Ohio State University approached me and said, we want to build a veterans program. And so they asked me, would I come on kind of part-time to build a veterans program. They were having some struggles at the time, and it was right after the post 9/11 GI Bill came out. And so I built a plan, handed that plan over, and walked away from the university for a second time. And they came back to me and said, hey, would you come on full-time and implement your plan? And I said, sure, I will, for maybe 3 to 5 years. A little over a decade later, I was still there doing those things, because again, it was a really rewarding mission of serving now folks that are still serving, veterans themselves and their family members, so they can get that education, move on, and have a better career. It's very humbling to be chosen for the Hall of Fame. I never expected it. I was blown away by it. I look at some of the people that are already there, like Colonel Tom Moe, who I think was in one of the original classes, mentored me when I first got here to Columbus. One of the ones going into my class is a guy in Bluford, first African American in space. He and I are both alumni from Penn State, which, being an Ohio State worker is a little hard, but the Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes can get along. So when I see someone like him in there, I'm very humbled by it. But it's wonderful. I felt like where I work now at the National Veterans Leadership Foundation is kind of a culmination of my life's work in the military and in education, but serving all along. And I look across, our class and all the classes that have come before us, and I'm sure will come after us, and it's about serving those folks. And so to me, it's not about me, it's about the recognition of the work that I and many, many others are doing, have done, and will do, so that the folks that are veterans and their family members can have things a little easier when they return, when they transition out, and when they decide what they want to do. And hopefully, in this case, hopefully here in Ohio. Ohio is a great place for veterans. If veterans aren't considering Ohio, they need to.
Selection and induction into the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame is a great honor. Nominate a veteran today.